Hey guys, welcome to IGN Live. I'm Nick Rago here at Gamescom, and I'm joined by the amazing Tom from Blizzard.
Hey there.
And we're here to talk about probably the most important game for me, World of Warcraft Legion. Tom, how's it going?
Right on. Going very well.
How's the game looking so far?
Oh, it's looking great. I mean, we've had a really good beta process. We've had a very large number of people playing the beta. Been getting a lot of great feedback and integrating that feedback. So far so good.
Awesome. Now, from a story point of view, where does World of Warcraft Legion take us in the Warcraft universe?
Right. Well, it takes us to a place called the Broken Isles, and ultimately what's happened is Gul'dan from Draenor has essentially brought the Legion to Azeroth, and as Warcraft fans probably know, the Legion is probably one of the greatest threats to the Warcraft universe in general. True. And now they're here. They're attacking Azeroth once again, and it's incumbent upon the players to defend the planet.
Okay, now this particular expansion focuses on Illidan and Illidari. So I haven't really interacted with Illidan since my days of Warcraft 3. Right. So I'm really excited to kind of see where what kind of role he plays in the game. But how much do we get to interact, or how much do we actually see of Illidan in World of Warcraft Legion?
Right. Well, there's actually a quest line that you progress through as you level up through the Broken Isles that actually allows you to kind of follow through the footsteps of some of the major moments of Illidan's life. Because at the start of the Legion expansion, Illidan's actually still dead from the Burning Crusade. And there's a process whereby Gul'dan is trying to revive him, essentially. He's kind of captured his remains and taken him off, and he's trying to revive him, and you're going on this quest line trying to figure out what happened to him. And in the process of doing that, you really get to live through some of those major defining moments of Illidan's life.
Okay, now we have to talk about the Demon Hunter, which is the new class you guys are bringing in Legion. I've played it in the beta. It's almost like you took the best bits of things like the Warlock, a bit of melee here and there, some of the rogue elements, and made this amazing new character class. So what was it like bringing the Demon Hunter to life in World of Warcraft Legion?
Well, it's been a really fun process. I would say that since working on the project, Demon Hunter is the one class I always wanted to do that we hadn't done in the shipping game. It was really at the top of my list. It was also at the top of the list of a lot of the members of the team. In fact, it was really the members of the team that were strongly advocating that this was the time to do it.
Was it just something that you guys wanted to make sure that you did it really well before you made it live? And that's
yeah, absolutely. Well, it also needed to be a natural fit. The other opportunity to have made it a natural fit would have been the Burning Crusade, our first expansion. But at the time, we weren't really ready to add more classes to the game. We felt like we were still kind of trying to get class balance all worked out, and felt like we didn't want to necessarily set the expectation that there would be a new class with every expansion, because we didn't think that would be sustainable.
Correct.
So we thought it was important not to do one then, and then since then there hasn't been a natural fit until now.
Okay. Now, one of the really cool things I personally like about Legion is that it's made to look and feel like a full-on invasion of Azeroth.
Right.
And surely the tech behind that must be staggering, trying to fit, sort of real-time invasions in different parts of the world happen at the same time. So how are you guys managing to pull that off?
Yeah, there's a lot of new tech at work with Legion, and it's tech that's been evolving over the course of the last dozen years, really. We did some Scourge invasions back during Wrath of the Lich King that set a couple of the foundations for it, but really what we see now with Legion is a lot more extensive. The ability for these full-scale invasions to show up, actually affect the terrain in the area, affect the buildings, things like that. Then the different stages that you go through for each invasion cycle as you kind of fight off the enemies, fight bosses, things like that. A lot of that stuff is tech that has been evolving over time, and it's definitely at the point now where we can use it very broadly and in interesting new ways.
Can we just take a moment and talk about spaceships?
Yes.
There's one of the cutscenes in the game where you have spaceships.
Pretty much.
What is going on there?
Well, the Legion, we know that they are out there in the Twisting Nether, and they go from planet to planet and trying to obliterate all life. And that's how they get around, right? They have these Legion vessels that what they do is they then kind of go and they land on the planet's surface and sort of act as a Legion gateway for their Legion minions to spill out of.
Just please tell me you have like a dungeon or raid or something set in one of those ships, because that would be awesome.
Well, we have a lot of Legion content coming up in the patch cycle that kind of takes you more and more off of Azeroth itself, and so you'll see some pretty interesting new things, actually.
Love it, love it. Now, you introduced something pretty cool to Legion, which is artifacts, because you wanted to almost turn the way that players level up and generally the gameplay on its head. So how do artifacts kind of play into your gameplay style in Legion?
Right, artifacts are interesting because they create a long-term character progression that goes beyond just the level up process. Because normally in an expansion, when you get to max level, you kind of feel like your character's done for the expansion other than getting better gear for the character. And we wanted to make sure that there was something where your character would actually, gain some new abilities, almost like the old talents, right? Where you would gain some new powers as your character continued to progress beyond max level.
Right.
And artifacts were a great hook to do that. One of the reasons that we felt like artifacts were a great hook to do that is because, in theory, you can replace those artifacts at some point in the future. Whereas, when we think long term about continuing to work on World of Warcraft for another 10 years, you have to be very conscious about how everything continues to pile up over time. And so you need to have fun progression mechanics that at some point can be replaced by other different progression mechanics.
Of course.
And so a weapon really helps us do that.
Okay, now also one of the cool things about World of Warcraft is PvP. Now I'm terrible at PvP because anytime I try and get into PvP zone, within 5 seconds I'm out there, I'm back at the graveyard.
Yeah.
But for players who are actually good at the game and good at PvP, how is that changing in Legion?
Well, we've introduced probably the biggest change to PvP since the Burning Crusade, when we introduced the arenas and sort of redid the honor system back then. We have a updated version of the honor system. The honor system used to be about earning currency that you would then use to buy gear. And the only way that really differentiated your character was that you would get like a 2-piece or 4-piece set bonus on that PvP gear that was kind of designed, oriented around PvP.
Right.
But now with the new honor system, where you are essentially gaining honor as experience, it's like PvP experience, and you level up in your honor level, and you unlock different honor talents, gives you a much stronger array of customization, gives us a lot more tools essentially to allow players to design their characters more specifically for PvP. It also allows us to equalize the gear side of the equation, where at this point gear is gear, whether you earned it in PvP or whether you earned it in PvE, and it doesn't have a huge influence on the power of your character in PvP. It's really more about how well you play it and what talents that you've selected to customize your character.
Awesome. Now, just taking a step back and looking at just how big World of Warcraft has become and just how far you guys have been taking the game and how long it's been running for. Do you ever worry about running out of content, or when you drop something, if the players are going to like it or not?
Well, we always worry about whether they're going to like it or not, right? I mean, that's kind of the inherent challenge of game development, whether it's for the first time or whether it's in expansions. And I think that it's important for us to stay true to the history of Warcraft, while also breaking new ground, and we have to find the right balance between doing that. And each expansion is a little bit different in terms of the texture of how much of it is new and far out. Like, for example, in Burning Crusade, when we went to Outland, there was a lot of new, pretty far out stuff there. Versus when we did Wrath of the Lich King, or now with the Broken Isles, in a lot of ways you're kind of coming back home and playing in areas that feel a lot more familiar. So we vary the equation a little bit from expansion to expansion, but in all, we always try to strike a reasonable balance.
Okay, and when you guys are actually designing content, whether it's just an event or an expansion, do you look at it from a point of view at, okay, let's design something that's going to bring in a whole new user base, or build something that people are going to enjoy, whether they're a new user or they're a veteran?
In general, we want to appeal to fans of World of Warcraft, and that's our top priority. We are not that interested in trying to reinvent the game to appeal to an audience that we don't really have. We feel like that would sort of betray the trust of our player base. Instead, I think what we want to do is continue to evolve the game so that it is elegant and playable and smooth, yet still deep and interesting and fun, so that it can appeal to both the hardest core players that we have and also to the many thousands of new players that we get every month.
Okay, and how much of the content that you have designed for Legion is going to be available on day one, and how much is going to be released in the weeks to follow?
Right, so the vast majority is available on day one. When we launch on August 30th, we'll have, in fact, the Demon Hunter class is already available. So it was the Broken Shore event, but then the Broken Isles itself with all the zones, the ability to level up to 110, the ability to get your artifact, establish your order hall, all that kind of stuff will all be there. What is on a delayed unlock are the raids.
Okay.
The raids and some of the mythic, the highest level challenge of dungeons will unlock over the course of a couple weeks. So about 3 weeks into the expansion is when the raids first unlock. The normal and heroic modes of the raids will unlock first, and then mythic and raid finder will come a week after that, and those are kind of slowly unlock over time.
Okay, and so obviously you guys are launching the game on August 30th.
That's right.
What's the scene like back at HQ with the beta running? How are you kind of tweaking things before the
Well,
game
we're
goes live?
constantly tweaking things. I mean, we have a very refined hotfix process, as we call it now, in that we can make pretty substantial changes to stuff, and it will just very elegantly patch into the game without interruptions of service and all that. So we're still always making adjustments. There are always differences between the theory of the way we balance things and then the reality of it once it actually, the rubber hits the pavement. So, constantly making adjustments, but at this point, I would say as a package, it's in really good shape.
Awesome, looking forward to it. And the last and most important question, Alliance or Horde?
Well, it actually kind of depends on which expansion I'm in, but I think that certainly my first attachment to the game was actually with the Alliance.
That is the correct answer.
Right.
Congratulations. And thank you so much, Tom. Wish you the best for the game launch and can't wait to dive back in.
Right.
Fantastic. And that brings it to an end for our World of Warcraft Legion segment. For more news and reviews and everything here on Gamescom, keep it locked to IGN.